I would have to agree with Candace Owens. It's clearly a shakedown.
And she says that she alleges that was brutal, like it was very it was aggressive. He tells her and threatens her allegedly to say that like he will if he ever does that again. But the part of it, she says that she was allegedly anally twice and that it was very, very brutal.
Shannon Sharpe was never the type to walk into a room alone. Wherever he went, red carpets, podcast studios, sideline interviews, you'd spot the entourage. Athletes, actors, moguls. The man was surrounded, not just liked, loved.
You remember his interview with comedian Cat Williams in January 2024 on Club Shay Shay? That helped spark, I should say, a renewed interest in Sean Diddy Combs and his alleged bad behavior. Now it's Shannon Sharpe who's in the spotlight for his own accusations of abuse.
He had that rare kind of charisma that made being seen with him feel like a flex. But lately, the room is starting to feel a little emptier. Quietly, subtly, but unmistakably. The A-list energy around him, it's pulling back. And fans are noticing. The same faces that once lined up to sit across from him on Club Shay Shay, they're suddenly missing in action.
John, I have to say, to go after Shannon Sharpe, if you're Tony Busby, after what just happened with Jay-Z. Remember, he filed that lawsuit on behalf of a Jane Doe, a woman who claimed that she was 13 years old back in 2000 and by Jay-Z.
No posts, no tags, no shows. Just a void where loyalty used to live. It didn't happen all at once. There was no grand announcement. No dramatic, "we no longer support Shannon" press release. That would have been too obvious. No, this was surgical. A slow fade. A digital ghosting. And it started almost the minute news of the $50 million lawsuit hit the timeline. A woman identified only as Jane Doe filed the civil suit in Nevada, accusing Sharpe of disturbing misconduct.
And he talked about how he was at the Diddy party at Diddy's house,
including emotional manipulation and unwanted advances during what she described as a toxic, power-skewed relationship. But while lawyers scrambled and statements were issued, Sharpe's so-called inner circle, they went radio silent. One fan said it best in a now viral tweet. Funny how all his day ones got amnesia the second things got messy. And if you scroll the receipts, they're not wrong. Celebrities who once shared selfies with him like digital friendship bracelets, deleted. Podcast clips that once trended for days, quietly scrubbed.
And how, after the festivities were winding down and it was getting later into the middle of the night, approaching 3 a.m., and he talked about how Beyonce was there.
One A-lister even edited a caption under a photo with him from legend to just good times. The shade isn't loud, but it's everywhere. And it begs the question, why now? Why this story? Because here's the thing. Sharpe has survived backlash before. Twitter feuds, sports drama, messy takes. But this hits different. And not just because of what's being alleged, but because of who's no longer standing beside him while it plays out. And that silence, that's the part fans can't stop talking about. Let's be real. It's not just the lawsuit that's making people back away. It's what the lawsuit represents.
But what I actually thought was, how does nobody see what they're trying to do? Because this is pure distraction.
Because while the allegations are serious on their own, the real chill factor came when fans did the math. A man in his 50s, a woman in her early 20s, a relationship that allegedly started when she was barely out of her teens. It may be legal, but in today's climate, legal isn't the only bar. People are asking the question no one wanted to touch when things were good. Was this ever really okay? And that's where the optics kick in. In an era where age gap dynamics are being scrutinized harder than ever, the idea of a powerful, wealthy older man entering a relationship with a much younger woman, one who may have seen him as a mentor, a gateway, a career maker, has become a red flag. Fair or not, perception is everything. And the moment that perception shifted, so did the invites, the reposts, and the open admiration. Insiders say the drop-offs were instant.
When ESPN made a big splash and brought Shannon Sharpe over to First Take and onto ESPN, these were not the headlines that they were hoping to see.
One celebrity guest allegedly canceled their appearance on Sharpe's show just hours after the news broke. Rescheduling for later, they claimed, but later hasn't happened. And according to a source close to his team, a few more names on the guest list just stopped answering. No drama, no statement, just silence. One publicist even advised their client to distance quietly. That's Hollywood for delete the photos and don't look back. Because in this business, it's not about what's true, it's about what it looks like. And the moment the timeline started to blur, the age gap became a headline, and the tone of the lawsuit turned from alleged misconduct to pattern. People who once stood next to Sharpe realized they might not want their names in the same frame anymore. They're not throwing him under the bus, not yet, but they've definitely stepped away from the driver's seat. And for a man who once seemed untouchable, the quiet has become deafening.
Now, this woman is alleging that Shannon Sharpe raped her multiple times over the course of a 2-year relationship. The relationship that they had was...
And it's only just beginning. You don't need press releases when you've got social media detectives. Fans are out here clocking every digital move like it's their full-time job, and Shannon Sharpe's social circle, it's starting to look more like a vanishing act than a support system. The once glowing comments from fellow celebs, gone. The reposts of Club Shay Shay clips that used to flood timelines after every episode, suddenly non-existent. One Twitter user even posted a side-by-side comparison of Sharpe's follower list from 2 weeks ago versus today. And let's just say, the numbers didn't lie. The screenshot went viral. Quietly unfollowed by 3 high-profile names. Another who had recently liked multiple posts, now not liking anything. A guest who once called Sharpe family has mysteriously deleted their joint podcast clip. A top-tier influencer removed a birthday shoutout from her highlight reel. And the caption edits? Oh, they're real. Legendary moment turned into fun times. Uncle Shannon always delivers became just throwback.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, I do see some similarities here to the Justin case. Look, Justin has now, and Johnny Depp to his credit as well.
It's subtle, but it's happening. And fans aren't just watching, they're compiling. Reddit threads have become archives of this digital distancing. Users are tracking who liked what, who reposted when, and which celebrity bios still include Club Shay Shay tags. Spoiler, fewer and fewer by the day. One fan commented, "This is like watching a breakup where only one side knows it's over." Another wrote, "The silence isn't shade, it's strategy." Because here's the truth, no one says out loud in Hollywood, association is risk. And in 2025, even proximity can cost you. The people quietly detaching from Sharpe aren't necessarily saying he's guilty, they're saying he's complicated. And complicated doesn't book brand deals. Complicated doesn't trend positively. Complicated is what agents warn you about when they tell you to protect your image. So no, Shannon hasn't been publicly disowned by his peers, but the signs are everywhere. And if there's one thing fans know by now, it's how to read between the lines. And the more those lines disappear, the clearer the message becomes. It's not just the celebrities hitting pause, it's the entire machine around them. The stylists, the publicists, the podcast producers, the people who usually stay out of the frame, but who help build the brand behind the scenes. And now, they're quietly slipping away. The same people who once bragged about working with Shannon, who put Club Shay Shay collaborator in their bios, who posted tearful thank yous for the opportunity, now they're acting like they've never met the man. Gone are the behind-the-scenes selfies and grateful captions. In their place, vague new chapter announcements and inspirational quotes about growth. One assistant who used to tag Sharpe in almost every story suddenly purged her entire feed. A podcast producer recently updated his LinkedIn, removing any trace of past episodes with Sharpe's name. And a junior stylist who once posted, "He changed my career," is now resharing content about knowing when to walk away. You don't need a press release when the breadcrumbs are this obvious. Insiders are whispering that some of this is coordinated. Allegedly, a crisis PR firm representing several high-profile clients issued an internal advisory memo, strongly recommending they pause all public association with Shannon Sharpe until further clarity is available.
Sharpe even figured out how to get into Doe's apartment complex without her permission.
No names, no direct calls, just a quiet pullback. The kind that doesn't make headlines, but shifts the temperature in every room he walks into. One talent manager was overheard saying they advised their rising star client to cancel an appearance on Sharpe's show out of brand risk. And here's the kicker. None of this requires guilt. No verdict, no proof. Just the looming fear that being next to a messy headline is enough to get you caught in the crossfire. Because in the image-obsessed world of entertainment, it's not just about what you say. It's about who you're seen standing next to. And right now, standing next to Shannon Sharpe, that's a position fewer and fewer people want to be in. And when the team behind the curtain starts slipping out the back door, you know something big is brewing. Sometimes silence isn't just silence, it's a message. And right now, Shannon Sharpe's friends, The ones who once called him family, mentor, even legend, are getting eerily quiet. No posts, no quotes, no defenses, just nothing. And that nothing, it's starting to feel like a decision. Fans are clocking every non-move. Every podcast guest who used to praise him and now won't touch the topic. Every actor, athlete, or influencer who was once eager to align with him and now can't seem to remember they ever shared a couch. One fan asked the question that's been sitting in the back of everyone's mind: if this was someone you knew, really knew, and you believed in their innocence, wouldn't you say something? That's the part that's giving people pause. The silence doesn't feel neutral anymore. It feels deliberate, especially when these same celebrities had no problem stepping up for others. When past scandals hit the headlines, some of these same people were quick to post a quote, a statement, a "let's wait for the facts" message. But this time, nothing, not even a whisper. And that difference is what fans are clinging to. It's not about whether they know the truth. It's about whether they're willing to be seen defending someone whose story now comes with uncomfortable questions attached. And maybe that's the scariest part of this entire fallout. The possibility that some of Sharpe's closest allies might know more than we do. That they're not just staying quiet to protect themselves, but because they're waiting to see if more will come out. If that next headline drops and they've said the wrong thing, that's a risk no PR team wants. So the safe move, the calculated move, is to say nothing. But that doesn't mean people aren't paying attention. In fact, it's the opposite. Fans are reading silence like it's a script.
If it happened at your apartment, as she's alleging, who did you tell? Did you speak to the apartment landowners? Did you call 911? Did you go to the hospital? So there's a concern about provability.
And the more people fall silent, the more the public starts connecting dots they were never supposed to see. Because in Hollywood, a missing comment can be louder than a statement. And the silence around Shannon Sharpe? It's starting to roar. While Shannon Sharpe smiles for the cameras and keeps delivering hot takes on air, something behind the scenes at ESPN feels off. Sharpe was supposed to be the network's golden ticket, the outspoken, sharp-witted former athlete with a cult following and a podcast empire to match. He brought flair, he brought numbers, he brought fans who didn't even watch football. But lately, insiders say the atmosphere at ESPN has shifted, and it's not just the viewers who sense it, it's the people behind the desk. According to sources close to the production team, there have been quiet shakeups, segment reshuffles, last-minute guest changes, awkward pauses in editorial meetings. One staffer allegedly described it as walking on eggshells with a camera crew. It's not that anyone's outright panicking yet, but the unspoken energy says one thing loud and clear: they know this could explode. ESPN has invested heavily in Sharpe. His pairing with Stephen A. Smith was marketed as a ratings dream, and for a while, it was. But now, that dream's coming with legal baggage, cultural scrutiny, and a public that's watching every move. If more headlines drop, or if more celebrities keep pulling away, ESPN could find itself in a high-stakes PR dilemma. Do they back Sharpe publicly and risk being seen as indifferent to disturbing allegations, or do they quietly distance themselves, risking backlash from his loyal fan base? Neither option is pretty. And that's why, according to one network insider, there's already been emergency brand review meetings. The focus, risk assessment, sponsor reaction, viewer sentiment, and contingency planning. Because if the story snowballs, or if the silence around Sharpe becomes too loud to ignore, executives need a plan, fast. For now, Sharpe remains on air, but watch closely. The body language of co-hosts, the tone of introductions, the guests who suddenly aren't showing up anymore, it's all part of the narrative now. Because when the people behind the scenes start moving differently, it means they're anticipating something big. And if ESPN starts to flinch, you better believe the rest of the industry is watching. This scandal isn't unfolding in a vacuum. It's riding the wave of a larger reckoning, one that's been building for years in Hollywood and now has Shannon Sharpe caught squarely in the middle. Because what's really making celebrities hesitate, what's really fueling the unfollows and quiet ghosting, goes deeper than a lawsuit. It's the growing discomfort around what kind of relationships the public is no longer willing to excuse. A man in his 50s, a woman in her early 20s, a dynamic wrapped in mentorship, money, access, and influence.
He's kind of been in the public for the wrong reason. So in September of last year, he suffered a really rather embarrassing public moment. You guys probably remember it.
It's not just about what allegedly happened, it's about what it represents. Fans and media alike are questioning not just the legal lines, but the emotional ones. And that's where things get messy. Because when age, power, and intimacy collide, even the appearance of imbalance becomes the story. Hollywood used to shrug this stuff off. It was normal, expected even, for older stars to date much younger women. But not anymore. Not when the public has a louder voice than ever. Not when social media has turned acceptable into a moving target. The rules are changing and fast. And Shannon Sharpe, once considered a model of accountability and emotional growth, is now the face of a conversation that nobody wants to be on the wrong side of. That's what makes the silence from his peers so sharp. It's not just self-protection, it's signal reading. They see the cultural tide turning, and they're stepping out of the water before it pulls them under. Even celebrities with messy pasts of their own are distancing themselves, because this scandal hits a nerve that feels fresh. Familiar, but redefined by a new generation's standards. Because this isn't just about allegations, it's about image. And in 2025, image isn't just how you look on a red carpet, it's how your values show up online, who you support, who you stay silent about, and who you quietly stop tagging when the headlines start to sting. And for Shannon Sharpe, the question now isn't whether he broke a law, it's whether he crossed a line the industry has finally decided matters. So where does that leave Shannon? Alone in a studio chair, suit pressed, smile polished, but something's different. Fans can feel it. Viewers have started calling it out in comments. He looks off. That spark is gone. It's like he's playing a character he doesn't believe in anymore. And honestly, they might be onto something. Because while Shannon Sharpe hasn't said much since the lawsuit dropped, silence has a weight, and he's wearing it. Insiders say he's showing up for work, but not quite showing up as himself. There are whispers of mood swings on set, of moments between takes where he zones out, scrolling endlessly, of backstage energy that feels tense, like everyone's waiting for the wrong moment to go viral. One staffer allegedly described it like this: he's still performing, but you can see he's checking the exits. And that kind of vibe, it doesn't come from nothing. Sharpe built his post-NFL empire on being unshakable. The man who always had something to say, always knew how to flip the narrative, always came out with the last word. But this time, he's uncharacteristically quiet. A few reposts, a statement from his legal team, and then stillness. And not the peaceful kind. The kind that makes fans squint and wonder, is he protecting himself? Or is he preparing for something worse?
Jay-Z was there. Not at their house, at Diddy's house. And how Beyonce presented herself to him. And she didn't have to do that because he knew who she was and he couldn't believe she was talking to him.
Because it's not just the lawsuit, it's the absence of support, of friends, of the usual noise that surrounds someone like him. And when your power has always lived in how loud people are about you, when the reposts, tags, and testimonials dry up, it starts to feel like more than just bad PR. It starts to feel personal. Maybe he's hoping it blows over. Maybe he's waiting for evidence to speak louder than speculation. But right now, it's the silence doing all the talking. And the version of Shannon Sharpe we're seeing on screen isn't the powerhouse we knew 2 months ago. He's still showing up. But the circle around him, it's shrinking. And fans can feel that too. In Hollywood, careers don't collapse with headlines. They collapse with hesitation. Sponsors hesitate, executives pause, brand managers start making contingency plans, and suddenly, your name becomes a question mark on every call sheet. That's where Shannon Sharpe finds himself now. Not canceled, not replaced, but stalled. And the people who once cashed in on his charisma, they're quietly checking the exit strategy. Multiple reports suggest brands have already started backing away. Not publicly. No dropped campaigns or angry press statements. Just slow emails, delayed renewals, a quiet "let's circle back next quarter" from people who couldn't schedule fast enough 6 months ago. For someone whose voice was once the hottest ticket in sports commentary, that kind of silence doesn't happen by accident. And over at ESPN, the walls might still be standing, but the cracks are showing. Sources claim internal discussions have gotten more frequent, more urgent, not because anyone thinks a scandal proves guilt, but because perception moves faster than due process. And perception, in this business, is everything. When viewers start tuning in less, when advertisers start asking questions, when talent starts walking away, that's when reputations stop being assets and start becoming liabilities. Sharpe isn't there yet, but the momentum isn't good. One ESPN insider allegedly described it like this: "We're not panicking, but we're watching closely, because if it gets worse, it won't be a slow fall, it'll be a drop." And that's the scary part. It's not just what happens on camera, it's what happens around the camera. The paused bookings, the dropped brand deals, the loss of energy in a space that used to revolve around him, because Sharpe wasn't just a voice, he was a movement. a post-sports powerhouse with crossover appeal and industry trust. But now the trust is trembling, the optics are unclear, and the silence from every direction is making networks and sponsors flinch before it's their name trending next to his. In this town, you're only safe as long as no one else gets nervous. And right now, everyone's legacy doesn't always collapse in scandal. It erodes in silence. One absence at a time, one missed repost, one celebrity who just quietly walks away and never looks back. Shannon Sharpe spent decades building a legacy that felt unshakable. From the football field to the podcast stage, he crafted a persona that was equal parts toughness, charm, and emotional maturity. But now, that foundation is cracking. Not because someone screamed, but because the people who used to stand beside him have stopped saying anything at all. And maybe that's what hurts the most. Not the accusations, not the headlines, but the realization that the same people who benefited from your glow can disappear the second it dims. Hollywood doesn't end friendships, it edits them. And right now, Sharpe's name is being edited out of timelines, bios, memories. One clean swipe at a time. It's the ultimate test of reputation. Not what the courts say, not what the contracts say, but what your peers say or don't. Because if your closest allies won't defend you when things get messy, what does that say about what they really knew, or what they now suspect? That's the speculation fans are clinging to. And in the world of celebrity, silence is rarely just about privacy, it's strategy, it's survival, and it might be signaling something bigger than any official statement ever could. For now, Sharpe is still on the air, still delivering takes, still pretending the walls around him aren't getting thinner by the day. But the question isn't whether he'll speak, it's whether anyone will still be listening when he does. Because the moment the people around you start to vanish, the message becomes crystal clear. Something feels off, and no one wants to be the last one left holding the weight of your image. So we'll leave you with this. Are Shannon Sharpe's friends just playing it safe? Or is their silence telling us what they can't say out loud? Drop your take in the comments. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the next video on your screen is waiting. And trust me, you won't believe what's coming next.